Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Worth It Then, Worth It Now, an ongoing segment I do on this channel where I look at games of yesteryear. Specifically, we've been looking at 10 years removed or thereabouts, and where possible I line it up with a sale. And today is no exception, we're looking at Darkest Dungeon, which were released way back on the 19th of January 2016. So a week or two ago, 10 years removed. I think the sequel is on Deep Sale as well, if you find yourself interested and want to try that out. It's very different though. Admittedly, I didn't spend nearly as much time with the sequel, but this one, my goodness, Steam tells me I spent like 90 hours in it over the last 10 years. And I ducked in this morning just to get a little bit of B-roll, and this sticks out in my memory like a sore thumb, in that this was when I really knew I was into indie gaming and that something special was happening with indie gaming in the PC space. Like, I think I could plant my flag and say 10 years ago, roughly today, was when it kicked off. So this timing and this pivot for this channel has been particularly good, I think. In my mind, up until that point, there were indie games and there were interesting ones, and even now and then there were rare polished ones. But Darkest Dungeon to me was proof positive that you can be an indie-only gamer and get really satisfying depth of gameplay and loop, and you'd never have to buy a AAA game again. Like, the indie scene was a threat, at least as far as my taste, especially at the time, was. I've always enjoyed systems-based games that are more complex. Anyway, so I'm obviously nostalging out a little bit, but I'm want to do. That's why we run this channel and this segment. I'm currently reviewing in the background Resident Evil 0 for this channel, but Darkest Dungeon is going to sit right at the top of that pile. Well, we'll see how we go. And I've seen what's coming up in the next couple of weeks, 10 years removed. There's a lot of competition. But man, the polish, the writing, voice acting, you could say it's more the narrator, right? They pick the right dude and the right theme, the right mouthfeel and the right writing to create this really interesting, and if you know, you know. Anyone that's ever played Darkest Dungeon will forever remember the narrator and the impact that it has. And everything is so literary and overwritten, but in the best way possible. Old English turned up to 11. The dude only speaks in $10 words, and I wonder how many people need thesauruses to understand what he's saying. I mean, it is that kind of thing. Pretentious? I don't know, maybe. I think pretentious is usually when it doesn't stick the landing. It's not trying to teach us anything or browbeat us with an ideology or anything. It's just incredibly verbose, but has that whole gothic theme. The soundtrack is excellent, and the art style accompanies it all together. So look, in case through all this gushing you've made it this far and you still don't actually really know what Darkest Dungeon is, it's probably best described as a very grindy, by the way. If you don't connect with the loop, you're not going to get value out of it. It is a huge grind, but I think it's excellent, where you basically do these expedition dungeon runs into, well, not the Darkest Dungeon, the titular one, but you are working your way up to that. And there's been patches and DLCs and changes, and even coming back now, they've got like I remember the Crimson Court, and that's sort of like a vampire blood themed expansion, and now they've got this circus. It's kind of like a PvP fight arena, which I'm not really interested in, but it's cool to see. And then this other thing, which seems to be kind of wave based, just fight as long as you can to get these magic meteorite crystals, almost doing a bit of a Mordheim thing. So there's a lot there. If you're like me and you haven't actually been back to it in years, there's a lot of value beyond just nostalgia. But I lose myself yet again. The idea is that you take a squad of 4 characters, and you can see that they're all fairly varied, but they still stick to archetypes. I think there's some slight color variation in their costuming and all that, but at a glance, you can tell who the brigand is, or the vestal, or the leper, right? They're easily identifiable, but they still have a bit of that XCOM vibe, right? They're randomly generated. The abilities they start with are random, though you can unlock and upgrade and mix and match them within that RPG mechanic, and they level up, they grow, they also, you could argue, grow in character because they develop both positive and negative traits, which can really affect the way that your run will play out. Like even just now dropping in my main dude, what's his name? Dismas or whatever. I can't remember the first two dudes, but you can try and hold, I think there's even an achievement if you can get them through the darkest dungeon. But he's developed a kleptomaniac talent, and so like when I'm walking past chests, before I can even click on them, this dude is often jumping out of the marching line to jump in and fucking steal all the treasure for himself, which is obviously a bit of a no-go. And what you can do between runs is you have your meta map, your base. It's a mansion you've inherited. They actually lore dump it pretty hard in the opening cutscene. Decadent relative. It's nondescript. Could be a father, could be an uncle. Kind of dug deeper, Moria style, into the catacombs under the mansion. Unleashed an antediluvian nightmare. You know, it's all very Cthulhu-y. And then proceeded to have everyone accidentally killed by the outbreak, and out of guilt shot himself, not before writing a letter bequeathing the estate to you and hoping that you would come fix it and clear the family name. It's enough. It's flimsy and it's all that you need. However, there is actually kind of story that plays out as you go to the different locales, which in turn will have their own unique final boss that you work your way up to, and some of them are so good, man. I'm obviously only here for B-roll, so I've got nothing to show you, but you can look it up and it's just really cool. The monster design at a base level is excellent, but the bosses are standout and then they have unique boss mechanics. So look, that should give you a rough idea. You pick out your lineup, you take them into the dungeon. The lethality is very real. You're going to go through dudes. It does tap that XCOM thing where, you know, I've mentioned this before. Save scumming in these games is a big no-no. You're shooting yourself in the foot because you're too afraid to let your dudes die. The lethality is important and part of it, and occasionally your favorite character's got to die off just to tell a good story, and so this is no exception. It also introduces this sanity mechanic, and while I wouldn't say it's been specifically aped since, I think the idea of sanity being something, you know, a less tangible health marker than a health bar is something that you see crop up in a lot of games, right? So I actually think this really set the scene for that. So dying is one thing, but your dude's going insane is legitimately as bad, if not worse, which is very in vogue and theme with, you know, Cthulhu-esque eldritch horror stuff where all the main characters either die horribly or go insane. And so it tracks those two health bars, if you will, and your dudes can actually dig deep. It's rare, but they might, when they mentally crack, they find fortitude and it's a positive. And that, again, adds to that emergent storytelling where you're up against the wall and your dudes are going insane and one steps up to the plate and saves the day. And, you know, I don't want to go into the mechanics too much because this is just, like I said, a bit of a nostalgia trip, a bit of a put it on your radar if you missed it, right? Because it's possible, which kills me. It's a very high profile indie game, but you know, it's going for like $2 now, so now's your chance to check it out. But it had things like when your health actually runs out, your guy is on death's door, and you've essentially got this window to heal him back up to at least 1 hit point, bring him back from the brink. And if they take damage while they're on 0 on death's door, they're still alive. However, there is a percentage chance that that hit will kill them. No questions asked, they're dead, right? So it gives you a little bit of wiggle room when your dude's on 0 hit points, and it's great. It stresses you out, man. It's so good. And then, like I said, you can build up your base at home. You can build out like a chapel or a tavern brothel thing, and you can send your dudes off to quench their thirsts, right? To bring their sanity meter back down. Their health resets between missions, from what I understand, but their mental health needs to be appropriately controlled. Like, for example, Mr. Kleptomaniac Knight of mine refuses to go to the pub. It's beneath him. He will only go to the church, right? And so you got to work around these character quirks, and if you send them to like a sanitarium or an asylum, I can't remember what it's called specifically, but you can pay a fairly big premium and they come off your roster for a couple of days while they're in treatment, but you can remove and even lock in, I think, positive talents. So the overinvestment in a character is encouraged, and arguably it's the way to go. But again, it really does up those stakes of, well, here's a guy that I've got kleptomaniac taken off. You know, I've put points into leveling him up, and I've given him cool gear, and now he's dead or he's insane or whatever. Darkest Dungeon, it's hard to beat. It's a really good game. And like I said, if I wasn't actually reviewing something right now, this would probably be what I'd be playing this still. So it's gone on the top of the pile for the time being. Don't need to waffle, I've made my point. Cheap as chips, one of the best games, well, of the past 10 years, easily. You should check it out. Might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.